Well, I hope you've had a good week. Okay, this year, as always, is given in memory of Rachel Leah Bas Chaim Tzvi. Should be an Ilui Neshama for her. It's certainly great merit that the people are doing this in her memory. Okay, today's Perek in Daniel, Perek Yud Aleph, is the longest Perek in Sefer Daniel. We won't be able to complete it in one day, which is unfortunate because the ideas are intertwined, but it will have to take twice. So I want to give you some introduction to this Perek because it's very different than the other Prakim. In the previous Prakim of Daniel, what we saw is Hashem revealing to Daniel the pattern of exile and redemption that will define our history and define his own personal history. It tells us about what nations will be exposed to and what our responses to them could be, and how to respond to our own personal defeats within exile. We have the prayer, we have the fasting, we have all the things that we've discussed in the last couple of prakim. We also have the messianic vision of Hashem eventually pulling us out of the Gehenna that we create for ourselves in exile by our inability to respond as we might to the overwhelming forces of the nations, not just materially but spiritually. So all of this gave us a big outline of all of history. So we understand how it's going to be spiritually, we understand how it's going to be physically, and we understand how it's going to be in terms of our responses. This Perek is different. What's under discussion here in this Perek is exactly what it'll look like. So this Perek is very different. It reads like a history book. So its purpose is to reveal to us the future with the same detail as most people use when they look at the past. So I don't know if any of you like history or not, but if you do like history, what makes history interesting is detail. So hearing something about, I don't know if any of you read history, if you read Barbara Tuchman's book about the medieval era, any of them, Through a Distant Mirror is my favorite. The details, what was it like in the palace? What was it like to be in the Spanish army in 1350? These are interesting questions. It opens your eyes to life at a different time, so that you could draw your conclusions about what's good, what's not, what could be integrated into one's own view of life from this and what can't. Most of the time, when we're looking for truth, we look backwards. And in fact, when Moshe asked Hashem, Hareini nat kodecha, show me your glory, he wants us to see Hashem's imprint in the ongoing historical process. Where are you in the world, Hashem? I am Makom Kavodo. Everything comes from you, but where do I see you? We're so blocked by life and by events that we're often we see the event, but we don't see Hashem's hand in it because we don't know how to look. So Hashem gave him a very interesting answer. He said, you could see my back but not my face. Meaning, I'll give you the wisdom to interpret what was, moving towards what is. But the future, my face, where it's all headed, Lo Yerani Adam V'chai, nobody will see this when they're still living. So of course there are many prophecies. Moshe certainly saw the future. He gave a lot of it over to us. Sefer Devarim, parts of Vayikra are replete with prophecies for the future. But the sweeps are broad and general. And we find this also within the prophetic books. Yeshaya, Yirmiyahu, Yechezkel, they all describe the future. But what makes this Perek unique, as far as I could see, almost within all of the literature, is the extraordinary detail that Daniel provides us with about events that have not yet taken place. So, what are we supposed to do with all of this? You know, Talmai, and Antiochus, and Bernice, and Letizia. What are we supposed to do with all of this? So if you're a history buff like I am, your intuitive response will be, wow, this is so interesting. But that's not what Nevuah is about. Even if it interests you, and I'm sure that there are many people who will look at this and say, who cares about Bernice and Letizia? Why do I want to know about Talmai? Who is Antipater? You know, there are others who aren't even interested, who certainly would have the same question. Why is this here? So what it's here for is twofold. One is to show that the events are part of an ongoing plan, and that Hashem's hand was here all along in order to offer people opportunities for response in every possible generation and every situation that arises within the generation, to live out our rejecting what's not good and moving forward with what is. So this is a hashkachic rendition of history. When you read history, and again I gave you the example of Barbara Tuchman's works, Western history is a history of warfare. Jewish history is a history of Hashem's presence in the world. So if you were to read Sefer Yehoshua, for instance, many chapters talk about the conquest of Eretz Yisrael. And again, those